Hello everybody, I'm Justin Ross with Fluke Biomedical and RaySafe, and we're back with the Fluke Biomedical IDA Infusion Pump Analyzer series. In this video, we're going to specifically talk about the Fluke Biomedical IDA-5 and how to go ahead and set up and start performing some of these performance inspection procedures we talked about. So you'll notice there's a lot of stuff on my desk here today. This is going to be a bit of a longer video, so there's going to be some cuts and some takes because we're going to let these pumps go ahead and run. And that takes some time. The first thing we're going to do is go over all the accessories you're going to need to gather. I want to tell you the longest part about infusion pump testing is probably gathering up all your supplies and starting. After you've had your station set up, it's real easy to continue to just change out pumps and keep going. Like we mentioned in an earlier video, the IDA-5 is really set up for that desktop application where we're going to establish a test bench and then bring the IV pumps to it versus going out to the IV pumps. So let's start going around the bench here and talking about the accessories you're going to need to gather, either from the IDA-5 or from your infusion pump, central sterile, etc. Starting over here, a collection device. This could be anything, but you're going to need something to collect the test fluid in when you're done running the test. Because remember, anything that goes into the infusion pumps has got to come out of the infusion pump. So we have that. Of course, you need your IDA-5. You're going to need some stopcocks. Here we go. This is a style that has a little tube which gives you a little bit more room away from the IDA-5. You're going to need one for each channel on the IDA-5 you're going to run. So today I have two IV pumps, so I'm going to have two stopcocks. And then I'm going to need two drain tubes, okay, one for each channel I put the stopcock on. I'm going to need a priming syringe, micro 90, and to go with the micro 90, pure distilled water. So if you look at this bottle of micro 90 that came with your IDA-5, this is a cleaning solution that you should run with your pure water. Run it through your IDA-5 as your test solution. It still weighs 1.00 grams per milliliter, so it does do that weight to water conversion. But this is a great way to keep the life of your IDA-5 up. All right, and I have a little measuring syringe to mix that up. I have an IV bag that I'm going to use for my infusion pump. And I've drained out and I've washed this out. Prior to this was a saline bag at one point in time of sodium chloride. So I drained the fluid out of here and washed out. I don't want any of that sodium chloride getting into my IDA-5 and gumming up the channels. And then I simply put a slit in it so I can fill it up with test solution. I have a set of tubing for my syringe pump. I have a syringe to use with my syringe pump. And then I have a set of tubing here that is specific to this Abbott Plum infusion pump, or Abbott Life Care infusion pump. So I'll need that. And then the last thing you're going to see here is my keyboard. That's just a standard USB keyboard, but this allows me to more easily navigate the screens of the IDA-5 for the setup procedures. So I have my keyboard here as well. All right. So let's go ahead and start setting up some of this stuff and running these tests. All right, so let's grab, this is 1 liter of pure distilled water, and my bottle of micro 90 here, and reading the instructions on it, it says 20 milliliters of micro 90 per milliliter water. I wish I had rubber gloves on, but we'll be careful. And this is a 5 milliliter syringe, so I need 4 of these. One, two, three, four. So there we go. We have created the solution we need for testing using the micro 90 that's included with your accessory pack, the IDA. If you run out, you can purchase more. I do highly recommend running this. The IDA-5 uses glass pipettes and photosensors. If you don't use this, those pipettes will build up. It's a warm, dark environment, so you get some buildup of mildews and stuff in those pipes. This will get rid of that and keep them nice and clean and extend the operation life of your IDA-5. So we've got our solution here. Now let's go ahead and start setting up our IDA-5. I'll set this off to the side for a second. And I'm going to take my collection canister. I'm going to put it below the level of the IDA-5. So I have a drawer open here on my desk. And I'm going to set that collection device down in there and set this off to the side. I'm going to grab my 2 drain lines now. Here we go. And today I'm going to use channel 1 and channel 4. So on the back side, I'll put this on channel 1 and the other one here on channel 4. And I'm going to simply put those down into my collection device. Remember, you want to have that below your IDA-5. If you go above it, you're going to create water column. It's going to create back pressure on your infusion pumps. So again, have that below your IDA-5. So mine's in the drawer here. Now I'm going to take my stopcocks. I'm going to go ahead and put them on channel 1. And again, I said we're going to use channel 4. So I'll put that over there into channel 4. This is a 4-channel IDA-5. Remember, it comes in 1, 2, or 4 channels. If you buy it with 2 channels, you decide you want more, you can always send in and get it upgraded. Alright, so we're set up there. I'll move this off to the side. And now I'm going to go ahead and take my keyboard, and I'm going to put my keyboard right here. And I'm going to go back to the IDA-5 and plug this into the USB port. Here we go. Make sure it works. I'll simply hit enter. There we go. Unsafe test records present. Do you want to save them? Nope. We're going to start fresh today. Alright, now I'm going to take one of my test syringes here and use this 50cc syringe. And I'm going to draw some of my solution up into it. Like so. You know, something else that's handy to have when you're doing this is a rag or a some type of towel, because you will have fluid leaks. So next time I stop the video, when I start running some of the tests, I'm going to go grab a towel as well. And I'm going to go ahead and connect that into channel 1, into the stopcock, into the T portion of it. And make sure it's shut off so I'm not flooding it right now. And then I'm going to need a syringe for my syringe pump. Now I'm going to get my syringe pump started. Typically syringe pumps are longer duration tests because they're going at very low flows. You know, 5, 10, maybe 10 milliliters an hour. Versus infusion pumps where you're talking, you know, typically 150, 200, 300 milliliters an hour. So it's a much faster test. These ones tend to be slower tests. Something that you don't see on this desk, and there's a reason for it, is you do not see the operator's manual or the service manual for this perfusion, for this syringe pump. Anytime you're going to test, the other thing you should have on your bench is that service manual. You want to make sure that you have the exact setup that it calls for in that syringe pump or that IV pump. You also notice I don't have the manual for the IDA-5, but I actually do. So something that's really cool about this IDA-5, if I go to my escape menu and I go down here and I can go right over here to instructions. See I did that? Back to the main screen, escape for utilities, there's your instructions, hit enter, and I have the manual built right into my IDA-5. So if I don't remember how to set up my test, I can just jump right into my IDA-5 and pull up that manual. Or go to flukebiomedical.com. While you're at flukebiomedical.com, here's a shout out to the Advantage Training guys. Go ahead and sign up for that Advantage Training and take the free online course for any of our products. It's a great way to start. Okay, back to my manual. All right. So now I'm going to take my test tube for my syringe pump here. And I didn't have one in my home office for the specific syringe pump, so I grabbed a generic set of tubing, and I have since shut off the tube with the safety valve here, so I can't flow water out of the proximal end. All my fluid's going to have to go out of the distal end. And let's get our thing of test solution back, and let's go ahead and fill up another vial of test solution. Remember, that's that micro 90. Now, I would normally push the air bubbles out of this, but I need to push all the air bubbles out of my test tube. So now that I have a full syringe, I'll go ahead and push that, put that over there. And I'm going to take this portion and put it into my collection device. That's the distal end. The proximal end here, I'm going to go ahead and hook up my syringe and make sure my safety valves are open. And I'm going to push fluid through the syringe, and I'm going to turn it up so all my air bubbles go to the top. You see that? You might have seen them run to the top there. And I'm going to push slowly all of the air out of that line. All right, cool. Now I'm going to hook up the end of that line to the other portion of my channel 1. So I have a stopcock here, it goes out to the IDA, my priming syringe, and then my test set, and my syringe I'm going to run with a syringe pump. So let's go ahead and start this syringe pump. Turn it on, and at this point in time is where I would make sure I have my service manual for the specific syringe pump, so I'm setting up the test specifically as per the manufacturer's recommendation. But since this video is just about, there we go, and there we go. All right. So now it's in there. I'm going to just set this tubing out of the way so it's not clogging up what we're trying to do here. We're going to start running our Infusion 3500 syringe pump. So there's a few ways that you can run this IDA-5. So you can actually go into here and pre-program and build test protocols. So it'll run you right through how to run specific infusion pumps. So you can build that test protocol in here. It's got its own onboard automation. So by plugging in a keyboard, it's easy to modify those things. You can plug in a USB printer to the backside and then go ahead and print off the results or save the results and recall them later on and save them to your PC. This also works with our test automation platform. So you can go ahead and use that test automation platform to drive it, or you can download Hydrograph software and go ahead and use it to drive that. But today, we're going to go ahead and do it manually, okay? Just because that's a whole nother video. So here we go. We're going to go ahead into setup for channel 1. And we're going to go ahead and enter the device information, just so we can save it later on. We'll need the control number, test, 1, 2, 3. And the operator, that's me, J. Ross. I got big fingers this morning apparently. There we go. Now we can set up our limits in here. So our flow rate, let's just pick 10 milliliters an hour. And our tolerance right here, 5%. We can modify that. Enter. Tolerance, leave it at, let's take it to 10% for today. And our volume, let's do 5 milliliters. Not 55, 5. And the duration of the test, so if we have 5 milliliters, it should be 30 minutes. So we can set up our test duration, 0 hours, 30 minutes, and stop when. So how do you want it to stop? Do you want it to stop when that time reaches, when that 30 minutes is up, or do you want it to stop when it reaches the volume? Those are things that you can program into here. Now this is going to be important because if you set it by time and it doesn't achieve the volume, at the end of that time, it's going to stop your test. If you set up by volume and it doesn't get to that full 5 milliliters, maybe it stops at 4.9, you got to watch how you're going to have it trip and stop itself. So you might need to think a little bit about that one. I'm going to go ahead and go by time. And when it's done, it'll stop and save the information. All right, so that is all good. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And I'm going to go to flow. Now my screen says prime, so I'm going to turn my stopcock and shut off my syringe pump and push fluid with my priming syringe. You'll see this bar go up, and once that bar is achieved, I can now shut my stopcock off, and I can go ahead and actually remove this syringe now. You got to pay attention which direction your stopcocks are going. Now, back to syringe pumps, IV pumps. There's two functions in here. There's an auto start and there's a start function. My personal preference after testing IV pumps for years is when I'm doing syringe pumps and they're going at a very low volume to do a manual start. The reason is it's got to get that fluid's got to get that first photo eye in order for it to trip. And if you're doing this with a very low flow, it might take a little bit for it to trip that first photo eye. And that time has gone on. Remember, flow is a function of volume over time. So if it takes longer for it to start, you've already pushed some volume into it and it can throw off your readings. That's my personal feeling. So I always like to start my syringe pumps with manual start. My IV pumps, I go ahead and I use the automatic start. So now that I'm here, I'm going to go to the start, but I'm going to hold up. I'm going to go ahead and set my syringe pump now. So on this, I'm going to do milliliters per hour. Oh, haha. Alarm on there saying I should do a PM on this. We know that's what we're here to do today. So now let's go ahead and press the number to select. We're going to select milliliters an hour. And yes. And now we have to put which type of syringe in. This is a BD. So 1. Confirm it's a 60 milliliter. And volume. We want to do 5. Oh, we want to go 10 milliliters an hour. 10, enter, and we want to do a total of, here we go. So in half an hour we should have 5 milliliters on the screen. Now this is going to want you to prime as well. That needs to make sure that you have the tension on the syringe. So we're going to go ahead and push start here for a second, and this is why I didn't want to start here. We're going to go ahead and prime this just a little bit. And prime that one more time. There, now I have a good solid start point on my syringe pump. Something that you can also do to check your volumes is, don't forget, infusion pumps have the syringes have delineations on it, so you can check your volume on there and compare it to your syringe pump or your IDA, your infusion pump analyzer. Whew. So we're going to go ahead and hit start here, and we've started that test. So we're going to check back in 1/2 hour. We should have 5 milliliters on this screen, as well as on this screen, and 10 milliliters. So I know this has started, so some things we can do while we're here. We can see our average flow, our volume, our elapsed time, and our instant flow, as well as if there's any back pressure. So some things that might happen to you when you're running these tests. You might not see anything happening here. Double check your stopcock and make sure that you have your stopcock turned in the correct setting. Some other things that might happen is if you get done at the end of your test and your readings are way off, double check that you didn't have any air bubbles in your line. That's always possible, that you pushed, you primed it, but maybe the solution was foamy and you went ahead and you got an air bubble. So check for those air bubbles and it should tell you right here on the screen. So some other things we can do now that this is running, we can go ahead and graph it and see what's going on the screen here. And you can see where it initially started and our current flow. So you can see a graphical representation of how your flow is going. So if you have any spikes or valleys, it might be the pump going back to the end of that cycle and starting over again. But you can see your flows right here. All right. So we have about 28 more minutes. In that time, instead of sitting here, we're going to go ahead and start our next infusion pump. So let's go ahead and we'll grab our bag that we're going to use for our test solution. And because I've used this bag before, I'm going to go ahead and spike the bag with a cassette for my infusion pump. It's important to note, whenever you use these cassettes, make sure you read the instructions on how to prime it. So you're going to need the instruction manual for your infusion pump. And then when you go to prime the cassette or the tubing, it might have some special instructions. It's found right here, so you're going to need those as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into my test bag now because I spiked this bag before and I don't want to blow fluid all over the floor. And the next thing I'm going to do is close the safety valve on my infusion pump bag here. Here we go. So when I fill it up, I don't get fluid all over the place. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my test solution I mixed up earlier with that micro 90, and I'm going to go ahead and put it into the bag. And something I should note is you might see bubbles in there. You want to keep as little of the bubbles as possible, because any place that you have a bubble is air, and it can throw off your readings on your infusion pump. So again, try to keep the bubbles out of your solution if you can. That's why you don't want to use too much micro 90s, it can bubble on you. Alright, now I'm going to hang my bag off my IV pole here in my office. Here we go. And I'm going to use my little drip chamber here and squeeze it once and fill up my drip chamber at least halfway. That's good, so we don't have any bubbles there. And now I have to get the air out of this line. So I'm going to follow the instructions on the bag, and I'm going to go ahead and put this, the distal end, into my collection canister, take off my safety valve, there we go, and follow the instructions by pulling this little valve, and it's going to let fluid go into the chamber, and then I got to turn it and get rid of the air, and then turn it again, and the air goes up through. I know it takes a few seconds, but we want to make sure we have all the air out of that line. A little more. Word of advice. Oh, close that valve, now I got all my air out. When you're going to go to Central Supply, or wherever you need to go in your facility to get your tubing to set up your tests, always get always get a few extra cassettes. Every now and again you'll get a bad one, or after a few tests they'll get brittle and they'll start to not work right, and then you have to go the whole way back down there. So it's a pretty good idea while you're down there to get 2 or 3 spares, because you'll probably need them, especially if you're doing a high PM month. Some manufacturers even tell you you're only allowed to use so many tests on it. Alright, so now I've gone ahead and I've hooked up this to my channel 4 on the other side of my syringe pump. So my syringe pump channel 1, channel 4, I have my priming syringe, I have my stopcock, and I have this connected in. It's channel 4, channel 1 still running my syringe pump. And I'm going to go ahead and put this into my infusion pump. Now, let's talk about something here. You'll notice that my IDA-5 and my syringe pump are both on the desk. It's going to alarm at me. Are both on the desk on a level playing field. The reason is in your IDA-5 there's a pressure transducer to measure that back pressure and occlusion pressure. If you raise your infusion pump up and the pressure transducer from this one's sitting a foot or 2 higher, that's a foot or 2 of water column that's going to be on your IDA-5, and it can throw off your pressure readings. So you always want to have your pressure transducers on the same level if possible. So you always want to have your infusion pump on the same level as your IDA-5. Alright, now let's see, here we are, we're still channel 1. So we have an average of 10.03 milliliters an hour with 2.74 milliliters. We've gone for 16 minutes and 50 seconds of test time, so right on track. And our instant flow is 9.34. Okay, so that's just a quick check of what our syringe pump's doing. Let's go ahead and hit OK. We're going to hit escape back to the main menu, and then over arrow to channel 4. Now channel 4, let's go ahead and set up our device information. And this control number is test 2345. Operator is still me. And our flow rate, well, let's do 150 milliliters an hour. And tolerance, let's put 10%. And volume, let's go 10 milliliters. Duration, we're not going to set. And we're going to have the test end when it hits the volume. So when it gets to 10 milliliters, this test is going to stop. Remember in the prior test we used time. This one we're going to stop it by volume. Alright, and when it's done it's going to save and close the test. Alright, hit enter. And more. Nope. These are additional fields I can enter in. And now let's go to flow. Alright, since we haven't primed channel 4 yet, here we are. We've got a red bar. We'll turn our stopcock over and use our priming syringe. Get rid of any air there and the blue bar. Alright, and just to prove, I can take my priming syringe off. And this time, higher flow rate, I'm going to go ahead and use the auto start feature. So let's get our infusion pump ready to go. Stopped, proximal occlusion, primary, press reset. I'm having, make sure that's off. Okay. Let's reset our syringe, our test cassette. Make sure we don't have any hoses kinked. Okay. We might have a bad cassette here. Oh, I had a slight kink up here. Now we're good. So let's go ahead and put in our rate of 150 milliliters. And again, if I was doing this for real, I'd have my service manual and see exactly what my service manual wants me to set it to. So my rate's 150 milliliters and my volume is 10, because that's what we set in there. I'm going to go ahead and push enter. No secondary. Settings complete, press start or review to change. So here I make sure I'm on auto start and start. Remember, all this I should go to my service manual and pull up my data. But now you heard how quick this started and we're already started here. There's my average flow, my volume, my instant flow, my back pressure. So channel 4 is running. I hit escape and I can go back and I can see what channel 1 is still doing. So we have 9 minutes left on channel 1. All right? Channel 4, we've already pushed 1.3 milliliters. Okay, so this is the point in time where I'd go ahead and I'd start recording on my data. Clean the cases, get my Biomed sticker ready, start getting my next infusion pump cleaned and it's logged and you get set up. Again, we have 4 channels here, so I could go ahead and get channel 2 or 3 going. But there's lots of things I can be doing to make the next test go faster. And this is where the advantage of an infusion pump analyzer really kicks in. This is doing its thing, you can be doing the next one. Especially if you're using workflow automation, because you could be going in and doing electrical safety of the next device or the previous device. So all that can be done while this is running. All right, we're going to go ahead and pause for a few minutes here, 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll come back in and we'll start to be able to see our results. All right, we're back. We're still running both of our tests here. We have our syringe pump on channel 1 and our infusion pump on channel 2. This is a great time to go ahead and, like I said, do some other work that needs to be done on the bench. And something I like to do is after I run tests for a little bit, make sure my drain lines are still in my collection device. Thanks to the magic of video editing, you don't get to see the mistakes other than when we had a bit of a issue getting set up here, but it's going to happen in the field. So the biggest thing I tell people is don't panic. If something's not going right, slow down. You probably missed a step. Go ahead and reset, look at it again, and start again. There's an alarm. So that means our KVO is open, our keep vein open, and we've completed our test. So let's go here to channel 4, and let's view it. And at the end, we have 9.89 milliliters for an average flow of 149.61. That's perfect. Now, if we didn't catch the end of this test, what's going to happen is that time is going to continue to flow. And the volume, since we didn't make it to that 10, that volume is going to continue to not stop this and save it. So we're going to go ahead and hit end and stop that test. So maybe this test we should have set up by time, or set our volume just a little bit lower. I would probably set that one up by time. You could do a little bit of math there. But there's our average flow, our volume, our lapse time, our instant flow, and our back pressure. All on one screen with a graph for it. I'm going to go ahead and hit save on that. And let's go ahead and do our occlusion pressures. Now for my occlusion pressures, I like to do lower pressures. Comments pass. For my occlusion pressures, I like to do lower flows, so you're not spiking up there so quick. So let's go ahead and push reset on this. And on my infusion pump, I'm going to go ahead and go down to occlusion for channel 4. We're going to set a rate of 20 milliliters an hour. And enter. And then a volume of 10 milliliters. We'll put 20. It should be ample. Enter. No secondary setting. And our infusion pump, we're going to go to occlusion, channel 4. And we're going to start the infusion pump. And once I make sure this is pumping, I'm going to go ahead and start my occlusion pressure over here. It's going to shut the valve and let it start building pressure. So this will find our occlusion pressure alarm for my infusion pump. So that's going there now. We can hit escape. We can graph it. See what it looks like. There's our pressure building. And I can hit escape. And I can see what's going on here over here in channel 1. We're just about nearing the end of our test. We have less than a minute left in that test. So we might have to jump it back and forth between screens here a little bit. It's not a big deal. It's an IDA-5. We can save everything. Alright, we can see our peak pressure. Right now we're reading a bar. We could have also set that for PSI. IDA-5 is customizable like that. And again, we need a service menu to find out what the exact flow and pressure is supposed to be at and what settings are setting here. We didn't check any of that. So there we go. We went ahead and we hit our occlusion. And here we go. There's our current pressure, 0.39 bar. And our peak pressure of 4.0 bar. I'm going to go ahead and stop this. And I'm going to hit end on that. And save it. And there's my test information. And I'm going to back. And I go over to save. And that infusion pump's done. Now let's go to channel 1 to our infusion pump. And it has been completed. And we have flowed 5.05 milliliters, and on my over here we're at 5.15, so we're pretty good. So let's go ahead and press stop here. And you can also see that we can use the windows here. And now we can go ahead and we can do the occlusion pump, the occlusion for that. And it's going to be the same thing like we did with the infusion pump. Go down to occlusion. And we can go ahead and hit start here again. And start our occlusion here. Again, we're in bar. We'd have to find our manual to figure out for sure which way we're supposed to have. And it's going to be building up pressure. While this test is going, I can take out my test cassette. And since we've had so many alarms on this one, I might think about replacing this test cassette if I had another one. Finish up my PM here. Is there any other checks I need to do? And continue to my next infusion pump. Do my electrical safety on here. All those things that need to be done. Don't forget your biomed sticker. And let's go back here and see what we got. Oh, I forgot to hit start on channel 1 for the occlusion pressure. There we go. Now we're building up our pressure. It's going to take a little bit, so we're going to go ahead and pause this video. And we'll come back one last time once we hit that pressure alarm. All right, so we're back and you can hear the alarm going off. It says the pressure is increasing, check infusion line. So there's our alarm, and it alarmed at 0.51 bar. The peak pressure is 0.51 bar. So I'm going to go ahead and push stop on that. And I'm going to go ahead and push end there. And that completes that test. Again, to get the exact settings, I'm going to have that service manual for both my infusion pumps, which shows you where to find a service manual for the IDA-5. Thank you very much for joining us for this video. We hope it helped you out. Check back with us as we're going to have additional videos. We're also going to do the IDA-1S. Don't forget to check flukebiomedical.com under our Knowledge Center or our Products tabs for more helpful training videos. Thank you very much, and you have a great day.